Hey everybody, this is Funky and welcome back to part 5 of Java coding tutorial. Now in today's part I'll be going over arrays, array lists, and maps. And these might be a little difficult to understand at first, but once you do understand them, it will allow you to drastically increase what your code will do. And it will help a lot when trying to solve super simple problems. Now, I deleted some of the code that we had earlier. The classes are still here on the left side, but everything inside the main body is gone. And let's just jump right into it. The first thing we're going to do are arrays, lists, and this is just attached onto normal data types or classes. And I went over this earlier in a couple other episodes, but we can start right away, like int number, and then if we put the brackets right there, then if you remember, this says, hey, this value now holds multiple values. This variable, I should say. So if we say 5, then 3, then this now holds the number 5 and the number 3. And if we want to access it, then we would say number and then the index. So if we want the first one, we'd say 0 because that's index 0. And this is index 1. And if we want to print it out just to test it, then we can say print, and it wants a string down there. So we're going to put quotes, and we can say number, and then 1, because we want to print out the 3. So let's run this really quickly, have it compile. And as you can see, it prints out the 3. And we can also debug it. Gonna put a breakpoint there. You just click on the left and you can see that it holds the 5 and 3, and you can see the index value right there too, which is super helpful. So let's just finish running it. Stop and rerun. There we go. All right, so super straightforward, and this can be applied to anything. So if we want to have multiple shapes, then we can say like this, and boom, now it holds multiple shapes. Super straightforward. You don't have to initialize it like this. You can say number 0 is equal to 5. It's already 5. Let's say 50. There we go. So now if we print this out, then it'll automatically be 50. And then we can say number 3 is equal to 10. And then you can see right there that array index is out of bounds. But let's try and run this really quickly. I'll do that. You can see index 3 of bounds is out of bounds because it has a length of 2. And that's because when this is initialized, it initializes just enough on memory to hold 2 values. So now you're trying to pass in a third one right here, and it's kind of freaking out. It's happy with this one. It doesn't mind that because you're just changing this one. But this right here is out of bounds. So you can either make this bigger by just adding another value, or you can use something else, which is what I'm going to go over right now, which is called a list. Now, you can see right there, there's the I, and that's for interface, or there's the class. And we're just going to use the interface because this one is going to accept a type. And now interface is going to require a class. So instead of int, you're going to want to put integer, and I'll go over that a little more in a second. We can say number list. And if we run this really quickly, it should all be good. Yep. And now because this is a class, we're going to have to initialize it just like a class. So we're going to have to say new array list. And the reason we're doing an array list is because this is an interface to the array list class. And basically an interface just allows you to access it. You can put array list over here as well, but usually you want to put list because it has a couple functions that are part of the list interface that array list doesn't have. It's kind of like accessing the child of a parent because you have all the functions of the employee and the person, where if you just do array list, it's kind of just the person. You don't have anything the employee has. So you don't need to put anything over here. It's all done. If you are copying an existing array list and you'd put it inside these parentheses because that's the constructor, this you can just leave empty, and I'm pretty sure you can also put grave. No, that's for other stuff. But just like that, it can be constructed. And then we can say number list dot, and then now there's a whole bunch of functions here. So we can add a value, and we can say add a 5. And just to show for comparison, if you do number dot, you don't have any of that. You have length, and that's it. And you have clone, but you're not really going to use that. And there's all this stream stuff, but you're never going to use that. So for all intents and purposes, this is way better. And it also staggers the memory across the heap, so that's pretty helpful. So we can access it the exact same. We're going to want some quotes here. We can say number list, and then we want the first one. Get. I'm thinking of C++ here. That's not great. All right, anyways, you don't access it the same way. You say .get. In C++, you'd just put it like that. But just like that, we can run this code. And boom, printing out a 5. And if we change this to 60, 50, we run this really quickly. Boom, now we got 50. And if we want to add something after that, it's way easier. And if you put the dot after it as well, you can see everything else you can do. You can remove a certain object, so I can remove that 50 specifically, or I can remove something at an index. The size is how many are inside of there. ToArray is pretty straightforward. It turns this into that. So you can turn it into an array, which is helpful for certain things. It does allow you to then access it like this. And it has clear equals. It has a lot more. Replace all, remove all, sort. It's really cool. So you're going to want to use a list most likely when wanting to add and remove values easily. And like I said earlier with integer, you can also put something else inside. So we could say a list of persons, and then a person list, new array list. And just like that, now we got a list of persons. Super helpful. So you just basically have to put inside whatever you're holding inside of these instead of just putting the brackets next to it. Now, the next thing is a map. Now this is also known as a hash map. This is your best friend. You will use this so much. I use it way too much. And basically, it hashes any data, and the first value becomes the key, and that is hashed. And then the second value inside the map is the value. And what's powerful about this is it has an O of n lookup time. So if you are doing something where you're having to look through a lot of data or you're looping or whatever, if you use a map, it makes it incredibly faster than having to loop through a list. And it also only holds one of each key type, which is very helpful if you're trying to weed out duplicates. And that can be for whatever reason, but if you're wanting to make sure, let's say you're creating an account for some user, if they already have an account, you don't want to make another one. If you're passing in a whole bunch of data, you're either wanting to not create a new account, or you're wanting to override that data with newer information. And having a map would allow you to just override and update that data without making a new one like a list would. So we can say integer, or actually let's do something more practical. We can have a person that is connected to an employee. And then we can say my map, and this is equal to a new map. Now, I hit tab there, and you can see that it made all of this. This is all override, and it can be really helpful. Let me get comfortable really quickly. This can be really helpful if you're wanting to add your own function or do something specific, like let's say for remove, you want it to do something specifically. Like maybe when you remove, you want it to delete only the person and maybe save off the employee somewhere. Save that to an external file because whatever. Then you could do that here instead of the generic remove. We don't want any of that. Let's just go all the way up here. And then this right here, map is abstract, cannot be instantiated. Let's just remove all this. Let's just get rid of that. All right, so my map. What we can do is we can say get, we can entry set, we can check if it contains a value, which the key is the first one. We can put in anything like this, we can merge. It has a whole bunch, you can read through it all. But what we're going to do is we're going to do put, and we're going to want to make a new person. It hasn't been initialized. So let's just initialize it, and we can set it to null or something. And then we're going to want a person. So let's say person, new person. And then we're going to want employee. So let's say employee, new employee. And then we can just pass in the new person with the new employee. And then just like that, it's all happy. Now method invocation put will produce a null pointer exception. And that is because this right here is null. So we are going to want to say it's a new hash map. And just like this one up here, map is just an interface. It's actually a hash map. Just like that's an array list. So was this context a collection map or update but never queried? Okay, that's fine. But basically, it's all good. This will be putting inside there. So if we put a breakpoint here, actually we're going to want to Jason Bourne. I don't know if that's how you spell his name, but I don't care. All right, and then we're going to want to print it out. So my map dot get and then a key, and we're going to want to get new person and then get the employee name. And that's not a function, we're getting the direct value. So we're going to want to do get name. And then we're going to put the breakpoint there. Now let's debug it. And then we can drop this down right here, and you can see a size of 1, and it holds a person that's connected to an employee. You can see the key right there, value right there. It's all straightforward. And if we go to the next line, then we can see in console, boom, right there. Prints out Mr. Bourne and Jason Bourne because we have the override. But just like that, it holds it. Now, let's say they got a new name, right? And they want to go by something else in the company. So we're going to copy this, move it down. We're going to say second employee. And let's change this name to Bobby Jim. Now, if we put this in here, my map.put, and then this is an employee, so new person, and then second employee, then what it should do is hash this value and then set the value of this to the second employee. And let's just throw a breakpoint right there so we can actually watch it go through. And then open my map. So we can see it's Jason Bourne and Jason Bourne. Let's see if we can pull that up. Yeah, there we go. So Jason Bourne and Jason Bourne. So then we go to the next line. And they should both be Jason Bourne still. all we did was make a second employee. And then when we go to the next one, it's now on this line, so it did that. The size is still 1, and if we open up this, still Jason Bourne, but now this is Bobby Jim. So instead of adding it again, like this array list would, the hash map only had one of them, which is really helpful for its own reasons. And it allows you to have both a key and a value, which is honestly the best part about it. I didn't make this finish, so we're just going to stop. There we go. So it's super helpful. You're going to probably be a little confused on when to use it. This array list is a lot easier to just immediately start working with. This map, you're probably not going to know, but once you do start using it, it's going to be a game changer. Now, I'm going to be going over loops and stuff like that in the next part, but overall in this one, just know that this is a lifesaver, and there are tons of things in here that are super nice, like contains key, right? If you want to check if new person is in here, then this returns a boolean. So we're going to want to say boolean has person. And then just like that, this could tell you if it contains it. And because it hashes this value to check, this is instantaneous. It immediately knows where to go on your RAM, in your memory, and it will check if it has it, where with number list, this has a dot contains. But the problem with this dot contains is this has to check every single value. So if there's 100,000 items in here, it's checking potentially 100,000 items to see if it has a value 50. This doesn't even check all items. It knows if it has it or not right away. So overall, very helpful. So that's basically what arrays are. That's what lists are. That's what maps are. Sorry if this video is a little confusing, but overall, if you kind of just work with them, they won't be that confusing. And that's the biggest thing, is just watching a video isn't enough. I know it's kind of annoying, and you probably don't want to open up a project yourself, but that is the best way to learn, honestly. And I didn't really enjoy doing it myself in the beginning, but if you open up a project and you just start messing around, you will figure out how things work, and you'll start to figure out what things do and what they don't do and why things operate the way they do. Programming is very straightforward. It has a lot of rule sets, and it will do what you write. So if you just simply figure out how the backbone of it works, you can get a lot more done than you think. So thank you for watching this part. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.